Denver versus Colorado Springs is a very common inquiry for those who are debating on which city to make home. So if you clicked on this video because you're debating on whether you'd like to live in either Colorado Springs or Denver, then you did a good job, because that's exactly what this video is about. Depending on your personality type, you may sway towards one city more than the other. And the reason I say that is because the cities are very different from each other. Denver is like the older sibling, and Colorado Springs is fast growing behind Denver. But it really just depends on your preferred lifestyle. Though they have a lot of common features like plenty of hiking spaces and mountains, they both also have individual characteristics that may appeal to you differently and in different ways. And you might be wondering which city is cheaper to live in, which city gets more snow. You might be wondering which city is better in general. Well, today we'll be talking about unemployment rates, average salary, culture, and the population between the two, and some interesting facts, so make sure you stay until the end. So Denver and Colorado Springs are the two largest cities in Colorado. Denver is the capital of Colorado and has 19th century buildings and is home to the philanthropist, the unsinkable Molly Brown from the world famous Titanic.
You shine up like a new penny.
This home is now a beautiful museum at 1340 Pennsylvania Street, so if you're in the area, check it out. Denver is pretty big as it's the most populous city in Colorado, and its nickname Mile High City is due to just being that. The 13th step of the Mile High City is exactly 5,280 feet above sea level, which makes it feel warmer because you're literally closer to the sun. And Denver apparently has all these secret underground bunkers and airport conspiracies, and what's up with Lucifer? Colorado Springs is known as being a resort town and therefore highly touristable, or tourable, and was part of the gold rush in the 1800s, which gave us the nickname the City of Millionaires. But we were also called Little London. Now we're called Olympic City. Our air is so fresh here. We ended up saving so many lives from tuberculosis. The combination of the fresh air and the high altitude made this place a haven for people seeking medical care, but escapees like Doc Holliday came to rest his lungs here too, according to history.com. But I know you didn't click on this video to learn about history. You clicked on it to know the differences between the two cities. I'm from Colorado Springs, so I'm a bit partial to it, but I do love to visit Denver. I like visiting larger cities, but I don't like living there. Denver has so much construction. It's been that way for many years, but there's a lot of attractions that I will drive up to Denver for, but then I just drive right back home where there's a lot more peace and quiet. So unemployment rates in both Denver and Colorado Springs, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, is 4.8%. So that's a number trending downward, and that's a good thing. So there's no big difference here if you're concerned about unemployment rates for each city. But there is a difference between average salaries. Now, the average annual salary for Denver, Colorado is about $80,000 per year, according to Career Builder, while the average annual salary is closer to $63,000 for Colorado Springs and under the national average. Not a good look for us, especially since housing is at an all-time high, but we do have excuses for this. Our city grew too fast and the salaries just haven't caught up yet. And like Denver's salary is higher, but the cost of living is also higher. Our cost of living is lower than many larger cities, but I won't get into that because I've made a video about it already. This one right here. So on to the average home prices in both cities. Car data shows that the average sales price of homes in Denver, Colorado has climbed 10.7% since last year, sitting at $678,755 American dollars. Well, the average home price in Colorado Springs is $510,180 at the time of this recording, which could go down or up depending on when I post this video. It's still November, so I'm actually talking to you from the past. In an article I read, the home for sale that was shared was this one on Newton, but it's clearly overpriced and has been sitting on the market. There's no garage, it's only 980 square feet, which is like the size of a small apartment, and it's for sale for $574,000. The covered patio is cute, but it's a bit much older home with very little space. When you compare that price to a home in Colorado Springs, you definitely get a lot more house for the money. Probably like 3 times as many square feet. But you don't get all the fun stuff that Denver has to offer. That's why people like to move to large cities for the lifestyle. People don't pay thousands of dollars a month to live in New York to have nothing to do. You're also paying for the lifestyle experience, which leads me to living in Denver versus Colorado Springs regarding things to do. So there's definitely a lot more restaurants and artsy things to do. You can go see shows. If you're into music, there's just a lot of musical things going on. You see people playing music on the streets. You have like a little bit more of that artistic action, which you don't see a lot of here in Colorado Springs. So you have a lot more restaurants. You have, really tasteful places to eat. Colorado Springs is getting better, but for the longest time, we didn't really have a lot to choose from. And there was just a lack of variety. But in Denver, you've got all of that with a lot more options than you do here in Colorado Springs. So then you have the larger attractions like Mayo Wolf. You have the stadiums. You've got Pepsi Center, the Broncos Stadium. Or if you're into the arts and architectural magic, then Denver is great for you. Colorado Springs has little samples of this stuff, but since Denver is a much bigger city, it's more at scale for them. So we've got smaller teams and stadiums like the Switchbacks and Widener Field and the Rocky Mountain Vibes, formerly known as the Sky Sox, who moved to another city. So Denver has, like I said, Mayo Wolf. They've got a lot of museums, large concert venues. They've got more traffic though, more construction, more people, higher taxes, even though it's still below the national average. The Denver Zoo is pretty cool. It's different from the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, but we definitely have the best award-winning zoo. Colorado Springs has more nature attractions that tourists love to see, like Seven Falls, Garden of the Gods, Manitou Springs, Cave of the Winds, and a cute little place called Old Colorado City. So if you're more of a visually stimulated person who likes to zen out in God's creation, you might like Colorado Springs better. If you're into the nightlife and you like clubs and crowded places, then Denver is more for you. So my neighbors don't like a lot of noise after 10 p.m., but Colorado Springs has nothing on the clubs and parties in Denver. Some people think that Colorado Springs is boring, but I like the peacefulness that it brings. But when I do feel like I want to experience more of that big, busy city lifestyle, I can just drive up to Denver. It only takes about 90 minutes depending on traffic. So what type of lifestyle do you prefer? Would you rather live near all the action or near nature? Let me know in the comments. So the population and size. Denver is the 19th most populous city with like 14 or so suburbs. And it's got significant archaeological differences. And the Denver airport is international and huge compared to Colorado Springs, which only flies to about 10 popular cities. Colorado Springs is the 39th most populous city in the US. So when it comes to weather, snow tends to hit Denver first and then travels down to Colorado Springs. So we know that the big storms are coming for sure once we see the snowfall in Denver, but generally the weather and snow are similar to Colorado Springs. Although some people say that Denver can be warmer than we are. I feel like the further south you go, like towards Pueblo, it's going to get warmer. But we both have mostly sunshine and blue skies throughout the year and a few showers and snowstorms similarly. Before I forget, grab a free and complete relocation guide to Colorado Springs. That's going to be in the description box. Underneath this video, you can get that safe download immediately. You don't have to wait for an email that may never appear. People do that just to get your information. But that's going to be in the link below. If that's something that's helpful to you, if you don't mind just liking this video, it helps the YouTube algorithm push my video out to more people so I can continue to make content for you. So not everything appeals to everyone, so I can't really say which city is better for you personally. Some prefer Denver and some prefer Colorado Springs. So think about what lifestyle you want to live and then just go from there. Remember, if you can't decide, Denver is just 70 miles away from Colorado Springs, so you can visit either. And not just that, you can always just pick up and move to the other city. We're very close together. So what other things about Colorado Springs living do you guys want to know about? Let me know in the comments, and if there's anything you'd like to know about or see, I'll do my best to make those videos. So now that you've learned about Denver versus Colorado Springs, you may want to know a little bit more of my market, which is in El Paso County. So click the video inside the box on the screen and learn about the cost of living, traffic, nightlife, and more in Colorado Springs, or you can watch the playlist on the different Colorado Springs neighborhoods to get a feel for what our neighborhoods look like. Hey, I appreciate you being here today. As always, you guys are amazing. My name is Iris, helping you build wealth through home ownership, and I'll see you next week.